Hi, thank you all so much for coming. Welcome to the Apple Store, to this fantastic space. It's really, I just adore this place. What an acoustic as well. Welcome, I'm Sarah Willis. I play the horn at the Berlin Philharmonic, and I thought I'd bring my horn today because with Henrik, you never know. He's really into sounds and experimenting, and I thought, okay, I'd just like to bring it with me, and we'll see if we can persuade him to have a quick listen to this. But we're actually here to meet the musician, to meet Henrik Schwarz. The most wonderful thing about music for me is that there's always something new to learn. And for me, as classical, nerdy horn player, to research about Henrik, to find out, to listen to his music, to find out what he's all about was totally fascinating, because I must admit, the techno clubs are really not quite my thing. It's a little bit too loud for us. But we're going to be talking about that later. So I was really happy when Apple asked if I would chair this discussion, and it's going to be a real discussion talking about his music, my music, and how these two worlds can come together. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. Henrik Schwarz, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Hi, hello. Welcome. So you see, I brought my horn. It's a good decoration, but you never know. Maybe I can persuade you to. Maybe I can show you some. Looks nicer
than my computer.
Henrik, welcome. It's totally fascinating to meet you. I've been really enjoying getting to know your music online and listening to your new CD, Instruments. And you have brought your music into my world with this CD. You've put your music, which came from a computer. Well, came from your heart, onto a computer. You rewrote it all for classical musicians and made this incredible CD. How did the idea come?
Well, basically, I'm interested in crossing borders, or also what you said before, that music doesn't have any limitations in any direction, and I'm always interested in in which context can I put the computer, because this is my instrument in a way, and through the last years I have tried to experiment with the computer and other musicians, and so the orchestra was somehow missing.
So you
on
mean
the list.
With other musicians you were sampling their sounds and then using that to create more music?
Not only just sampling, but also playing together. For me, it's very important to have a performance on stage together. I think that makes a difference in a way, and also the computer can add a new sound even to acoustic instruments. With
the computer, it's almost I'm almost a little bit jealous of this, because when you press the button, it comes out exactly what you wanted. With a horn, we call it in German a Glücksspirale, which means a sort of a lucky guess, so that what we blow in this end is not necessarily what comes out. So, so it must have been a totally different experience for you hearing your music played by live musicians.
Yes, I was struggling with that problem too, because what I had in mind was not always what I heard back from the instruments in the first place, and it has been quite a long way to get the notes right, to get the music written in the right way, so that you get a result that is what I was looking for. And of course, this music that was the source was electronic music. That's nothing that a classical musician usually sees in front of him on sheet.
How did you even put it onto a sheet? Because I'm sure a lot of you have heard the CD. When I heard it for the first time, I just kept thinking, gosh, how do they know where to play? Because the techno, the house music, it's quite minimalist, isn't it?
Yes.
The same thing happens for a long time.
Yes.
And it's in your pieces on the CD as well. And there's always different people coming in. You had a conductor, you told me, which helps. Usually,
yes,
if he gives the right cue. And what were the challenges that the classical musicians had with the music?
I think the biggest challenge was, for me, in the first place, to get rid of the drums, because they usually are the most important element in electronic music, or electronic dance music at least. And at some point in the process, I thought, let's get rid of the drums.
Why?
Because it sounded cheesy to me. We had a rehearsal at a very early stage of the project where there were still drums involved, and And I thought, no, this is not. Somehow they don't fit together. And
Were they electronic drums? Did you put the sampler in there, or did you
half
have
and half.
live?
There was a real drummer, but he was playing electronic drums and acoustic drums at the same time. But it wasn't. I was looking for something more abstract, and I wanted to get it away from this dance floor in a way. And also, what I think today is that the drums always put music in a certain time frame. And because when you hear something on radio, it's if you listen to the drums, then you can say, so this is from the 70s, this is from the 80s, or from the 90s. And if you put the drums away, it gets much more difficult to actually find out when was this music made. And this is something that I found very, very interesting, to put all that away and just have the classic instruments, and so you don't know really when this was recorded, or it somehow puts the music into another place.
People who know your music, though, recognize it, because I recognized also some of the stuff that I'd been watching online that had a beat all the time, and then all of a sudden to hear it done by strings, and you have a really cool bass clarinet player. I mean,
Yes.
this guy, or girl, I don't know who played the bass clarinet, but that was basically that's a techno player. Unbelievable.
Yes, fantastic. But it's a fantastic instrument too. So it can do many things. It can be very, very strong, and it can be fast. So yeah, it's one of my favorite acoustic instruments.
How did you choose the instruments How did you choose the instruments for instruments?
It started with the computer again. I did a kind of a simulation on the computer, so like a computer orchestra, just to get a first idea of how several parts could sound, and what maybe could work, what would be a solo instrument, and so this is how it started. And so I was experimenting with sounds.
Do you have favorite instruments?
Well, the bass clarinet is really something that I really like. The bassoon also. I just started to work with horn, so
he's not just
let's
saying
see,
that just for today.
Let's
It's
see where
true.
this is going. The horn can be incredibly powerful. This is something that I'm fascinated by. But for me, it's a very new world, and as I was looking for new sound, so this is exactly what I was looking for. There's all those new
There's no
sounds.
horn on the CD, though.
There is no horn, no.
On the
But
next
CD,
one.
yeah.
Have you heard that? Promise. So, I mean, it's a fascinating thing for me as a classical musician. Well, for one thing, as I said at the introduction, your music's a little loud for us. It's incredibly cool. I feel like a friend of mine said just before I came here, she said, "What? You're interviewing Henrik Schwarz? Well, no matter what you do, you can't be as cool as him." So, well, thanks. But it's true, you know. I feel like a little nerdy classical musician. It is a totally different world, this dance world and this electronic music. But the fact that we can bring it together is good for both genres, maybe. But it is out. Am I allowed to ask a nerdy question? How do you manage to do a 2-hour set? Do you wear earplugs?
No, but I mean, I like it loud, so, but you have to keep the balance. So I think it's not going to work when you have it loud all the time. It's nice to have it loud for 2-3 hours.
You calm people down during your sets and then build it all back up again.
It might be loud during my set and also then afterwards and before, but when I'm outside of the club, I try to relax the ears, because I think that's very important to. Otherwise, you just damage yourself. And
I sit in front of the percussion
yeah.
section in my orchestra.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's even louder than what is around me.
We
probably,
love
so,
it.
Yeah.
And also sitting downwind of a horn player, you know, our principal horn, he's certainly, I can hear better in this ear than in this one, because this one gets all the horn sound right in
And
the
the
ear.
orchestra can be very loud too.
Very.
So, yeah.
We've had actually people there recording decibel levels, whether it's allowed to even work at this decibel level, but I guess they never did that with you.
They do all the time.
They do?
Yes,
Really?
Of course. Yes, it's very important. Many clubs have the meter in front of you, and you can't go above 102 or 3. They take care, of course, that you don't damage anybody's ear. It's very important.
Really?
Yes, of
So I
course.
could go to a club and don't have to be afraid of it.
No.
Okay. But would your fan base, would they come to a concert? What would they be afraid of? Lovers of electronic music, would they be afraid to come to a concert?
No, they might be afraid of not hearing something that they were looking for, probably. So I don't know. They might be afraid of not knowing what's going on, because that's as part of this project. I listened to a lot of classical music. I went to concerts. I spoke to a lot of musicians. And even if I was really interested, I found it very difficult to get into this world, which seems to be somehow locked. And it's very difficult to get in. And I think this is what probably listeners, young listeners, electronic listeners, they might want to get in. And then if you just go to a random concert, you just don't know what's happening. And
that makes me
there's
really
so
sad
much,
to hear.
There's so much music,
Yeah.
and it's so difficult to get into it.
So what can we do? What can we do in our classical music world? Projects like yours.
Hopefully, this is a tiny little step into the right direction. I mean, we talk now. That's good. That's also a step. I find it very important because what I found is there is so much incredible classical music. But from my perspective, it's strangely curated in an orchestral evening, because it's somehow made. For me from outside, it seems it's made for an audience that doesn't really want to be like kicked in the ass. Yeah, but there is so great compositions that do that, and what I've heard in concert nights was very beautiful stuff, of course.
But you didn't feel kicked in the ass?
Sometimes not, yeah. Sometimes yes,
Okay.
sometimes more than I was expecting. And that were the moments when I was really blown away. And what I know from electronic listeners is that they are used to extreme sounds. So you can play crazy stuff.
But you said that in the classical concert, if the electronic fans come to a concert, they don't know what to expect. But do you know what to expect in the electronic music? Is maybe, I mean, techno is basically 4/4 time the whole time. It doesn't change into a waltz or it stays the same beat. But you still don't know what to expect. All of a sudden, I was watching your set at a Berlin club, and even you don't know what to expect. You're making it up. You're feeling it as you go along.
Yes, I'm reacting to what the audience does in a way, and maybe also sometimes like put a spark into the dance floor and see what happens. And sometimes it goes right, but I think it's also maybe the other way around. If somebody who knows classical music goes into the club, it will
You'll
be
usually
difficult.
find them
it will be
standing like
difficult for
that.
them too. So, but I strongly believe that there's a lot of potential at the moment in the combination of what we do and what you do. So, and that's for me. It's just at the starting point. There's a lot to explore.
Are there any classical composers which have influenced your musical development, like especially for this project?
Not really influenced, but
Or favorites?
There's definitely favorites. I was going back in time, so I started today and went backwards. I didn't start in the early days and went into today. So I'm now at around 1900.
Oh, you've got quite a long way to go.
I know. But I know that, this is something I have found for myself, that I'm very interested in the music that has been written between 1900 and 1950. So, Strauss I really like, and Ravel I really like, and and we just spoke about it, Thomas Adès, or how do you say it?
Thomas Adès.
Adès, I was super impressed by.
Thomas Adès is a British composer, and when Sir Simon Rattle came to the Berlin Philharmonic in 2002, was it 2002, 2003? Anyway, quite a while ago, his inaugural concert included Mahler's Fifth Symphony and Thomas Addis's Asila. And Thomas Addis wrote this piece. He was influenced by techno clubs in London. And we didn't have any beats. It was all literally just the orchestra. And you can imagine what we thought at the first rehearsal. We just thought, okay, what is this? And we absolutely loved it. I mean, I thought it was fantastic music.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it was typical of Sir Simon bringing something so unknown and so experimental to Berlin. But that's what he's been famous for. But you heard the piece and you loved it.
Yes, I was blown away because I didn't know him, and I was just listening to it, and I heard so much of electronic music in this acoustic music, and would you call it classical music? This is something that
it's I don't know. It's played by classical musicians, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes not a good thing, because we don't quite have that edgy rhythm that needed to play that sort of music. But Thomas knows the orchestra very well and could write very cleverly. To get us playing what he wanted and to get that really
but it was
penetrating
difficult
sound.
too, because
really
this is something I experienced, that the rhythm, because I have rhythm in my music, in my acoustic music too, and it's very, very important that it's played very accurate. But and if only from 50 people, only 5 don't join the rest, then somehow everything falls into pieces and it doesn't sound good. So
you ever heard The Rite of Spring go wrong at the end? The big piece by Stravinsky, The Rite of Spring. If one person is out at the end of that piece, the whole thing collapses. So I know exactly what you mean. But how did that work in the recordings with the Tokyo Secret Orchestra? It's such a why are they secret?
Because nobody knows them.
Well, they do now. They do now. So what were the rehearsals like? Did you sit in the rehearsals just think, oh no, or?
Sometimes yes.
It must have really, it's difficult stuff.
It was very difficult because I didn't know, in the beginning I didn't know how to write for orchestra. I didn't know anything when I started. And
can I ask you, can you read music?
When I started, I didn't, but now I learned something. I'm still too slow.
Tell me about horn transposition.
Yeah,
no, that's for the next.
I've heard of that. Yeah, but I also I talk to people who know how it works, and I think that's very important. And because this is something you can't do alone. This is also something I found out. You need people around you that help you, because there's so many musicians sitting in the orchestra, and everybody needs something else. And I came from outside, and I thought, okay, so let's see what happens. And I didn't have fear because I thought, if it's going wrong, it's going wrong. And so it was a big thing to write the music on paper. That was one big step, and then sitting there and having all those people around you with all those questions, and then they played it for the first time, and I thought, oh, this is never gonna work. And then they played another piece, which was walk music, and that was, and this just worked. They put the sheets in front of them, and they were playing, and it sounded like I wanted it to be. And so that was the moment when I thought, okay, it
was probably a little bit slower, the piece. It's always the fast rhythmical stuff.
The fast rhythms. Yeah. What's the problem?
If I only knew. We just ain't got no rhythm. No, it's a motoric thing. I don't know. They're unusual rhythms for us. You know, it's not what we are classically trained. I wish we could, but it's not what we're trained to do. So to get that edginess, especially in Germany, you know, in Germany, a conductor does this, and the orchestra plays ba. So they play
even
like
behind
behind it. An American orchestra will go ba. So you would have probably found it easier to play with an American orchestra. They play directly on the beat. We play about half an hour behind the beat, but it sounds really nice. So if you've got something,
this is something I don't understand. How can you watch someone who does this and then you do da like half a beat later?
Yeah,
it's
when I joined the Berlin Philharmonic, someone told me, he said, don't watch, just feel. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was Claudio Abbado. And,
Should be
and
okay.
I had not got a clue where to play, really, literally. He went, and everyone around me went, bah. But I was always the first, at the beginning, always the first. And it's something that a big body of musicians can just feel. It's really hard to explain, but it's wonderful. It doesn't always work, but when it does, it's wonderful. And but if it's something rhythmical, Simon often says, Sir Simon, he says, okay, no, today we're not going to be German, we're going to play on the beat. And we, with Asylum, for example, we really had to do that.
We
really
playing,
had to do that.
But that's interesting, because
Otherwise,
this is something
we would have been
that
lost.
they need to do with my stuff too. And I always saw that the movements, I learned the movements of the conductor too, to understand what's happening. And I just saw and heard that they were playing behind. And for me, this doesn't work as a concept. So I wonder, where's this coming from? Why does it happen?
It's a tradition of an orchestra. Every orchestra has its different. That's the wonderful thing about music. No one thing is ever the same. And the Staatsoper here, they play a different feeling than our orchestra, and you just have to get used to how that works. The smaller the ensemble, the easier it is.
Yeah.
To say, no, we play right here. And when you don't have a conductor, it's almost easier because you breathe. But in the very fast rhythmical music, it's hard. But the conductor can insist on playing with the beat. If the conductor's good, then it should be no problem. But your music's hard to play.
That's what I found out too. So yeah.
Did you have any regrets? Did you think, oh man, I'm going to stick to my laptop?
No, because I was actually fascinated by it being so difficult. Because for all the years that I do music, I have this slave, which is the computer, which does what I ask him to do immediately. Well, we try. We just can't always promise that it happens. No, but and then I got into this rehearsal situation with 40 people, and some of them loved the music and they were totally into it, and then there were a few who obviously didn't like it too much, and so you have those, and then even some who probably don't feel the rhythm at all. So they try hard, but they don't get into it, and then there's all these things happening at the same time, and you're trying to get it under control. And for me, this was, in the beginning, it was difficult, and I was frustrated. But then after a while, I was in these discussions with all those musicians, and I thought, yeah, this is fantastic. You fight to get something done, and there's so much human drama involved, and I loved it. So it was, yeah, and still do. It's very special.
One thing you can do next time you have an orchestra project is watch people's feet. I always find this very fascinating in an orchestra, because everyone's playing more or less the same rhythm, but everybody's foot is going at a different time. Everybody feels the rhythm somehow differently. We try not to do this too much on a stage. Youth orchestras, you see them, you know, really tapping. Yeah. But it's also, I find, quite hard to sit still to your music. I was listening to it, and it's not the sort of music I would like to lie in bed and read a newspaper and relax to it. It's moving music.
Yeah, that's what it's made for, basically. And but still, I was interested in what happens when it gets transferred, because I didn't want to make cover versions of the original electronic tracks. So I didn't want that the orchestra tries to sound like electronic techno music.
So you didn't want the orchestra to play on just their notes, but you had your beats in there. That would be more like just a cover that everyone's done covers.
I wasn't interested in that. I was really thinking about would it be interesting if I, with my electronic perspective, write something for orchestra. How would it sound? And as a helper for myself, in a way, I used tracks that I had made before. Because I felt kind of safe using them, because I knew they work, and I knew how to play with them, and so that was the starting point. So in a way, of course, it's still, the result is still kind of dance music-ish, but
it's more peaceful than the original tracks.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more, and they also don't last as long.
Yeah, and I think it's a different energy. I think every piece is now, it's very different than the original piece. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any favorites? What do you think works the best? I have a favorite. I like the last track with the bass clarinet, the cool
I like that one too.
Yeah.
That's maybe my second favorite. The favorite is Marvin, because I thought it sounds like a weird piece of acoustic music, and I thought I haven't heard something like that before. So it has a lot of room in a way. There's space, and and somehow I thought this is something new, even from my perspective. It's something new. And also the last one, I Exist Because of You. It has this shaking energy, which is it's a similar energy to the original one, but somehow different. And I can't really say what it really is, but I think there's a lot of energy also in the orchestra version, and I like that.
Yeah, I love that one. Well, they're all great. What do you think? What else do you think we can do to combine the two worlds, as you say, without getting cheesy? What else have you got planned apart from a CD only with horn and samplers?
I mean, for me, for me, a next step would be scaling down everything a bit. Maybe writing something new for a string quartet, because I think that's probably the highest or the most difficult thing you can do. The string quartet can do anything, but I find it very, very difficult to write something special. But probably that's for instruments that 4 is easier to control than 50 or even more. So
yeah.
that's what I'm thinking at the moment. So maybe I'm wrong. So this is something I'm thinking about, or what I was thinking about would be if I would select classical works like a DJ, and also what we do is in electronic music is we do edits, and that means we take a track or piece and we take out the parts that we like, and then we cut them together and loop them and make our own arrangement.
So you prepare that before you do a live set, or do you have a data bank of all your favorite bits?
Not when I play live,
Okay.
no, but that would be something that I would be interested in doing, just selecting classical works and cutting them and editing them, and then make something like a mix, like a 1 or 2 hour mix out of it, and then have an orchestra play that. So
With beats or without?
Without beats.
Because you remember that
They
hooked
don't
on
feed.
classics thingy, sort of all this is, they've done all that, they put Beethoven to
drums?
rock drums.
I don't like it. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people bought it, so.
Yeah. There's
But,
many people who like it. I don't. So.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you must say that people learn about, they know the big tunes because of these mixtures, these crossover things. They think, oh, they recognize that. Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, we know that.
Yes.
So there's good and bad out of all these experiments. It's just finding one that works also for musicians, because we don't like to just play, you feel like you spent 10,000 hours in a practice room and then you're asked to go, but, or, it's or worse.
Okay,
There's some music that I've played some pieces where I didn't play one single note. I just go and made noises on my horn. You think, okay, this is not what I trained for. On the other hand,
So that would be contemporary classical music.
contemporary, yes, yeah. On the other hand, who knows what Mozart would have come up with? What's modern today might have been in 50 years. It might seem like you just don't know. So we've just got to keep trying, and that's why I really, really appreciate people like you who go out and do these projects, because I think music needs it. Not only your music, but our music too.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I also believe it's very, very important we talk and play together and try out new things. But what I can say now, after 3 years of working on that album, it's really, really difficult to get into the classical world. Not only that you might not know what you need to know, but also...
Do you think that's a problem? What do you mean, that not knowing when to clap or not knowing when to... People have said to me they're scared to go to concerts because they don't know when to clap. I just said, well, clap wherever you want. It's fine with me. But not everybody thinks like that.
Yeah, maybe that's some old kind of cliche that people would fear to clap when but then you just wait until everybody claps. So that works. So that's
so what do you mean
but
that they don't know what they need to know? They don't understand the pieces, or?
I think it's a matter of selection. What is being played on the night? Because if you are interested and then you go to a concert and you don't know nothing and then you might, if you are lucky, you hear a good piece that blows your mind, and then you come back. But I think very often you go away and you're like, I don't get it. So I think what would work is maybe a curated night that is, where the music is selected by someone who is somehow connected to the people you want to bring to the concert hall. So.
How about a concert? Maybe get an orchestra on stage and then ask the audience, what would you like to hear tonight? That would be a little bit dangerous, but you never know what they want to hear.
You might get the same results probably than
it's
actually on you get the hits.
Yeah.
And, but that's exactly what I think, that the hits are not so interesting. Of course, there's Beethoven, fantastic stuff. But even if you're not interested in classical music, you have heard that. And many other things too. So, but what about all the rest? There's so much more to discover, and it probably could help to have one night in a month where that's different than the rest. So something like that. I don't know.
I'm just always really interested to hear what other musicians think about that, because it's a passion of mine to communicate how great classical music is, and it's hard sometimes. But how could you communicate your passion? How could you get us into your club?
Through my work with this album, I've met many musicians who go to the club. For them, it's natural. They do that.
I'm coming.
I don't have to ask them. Yeah. Sure.
Can I come? Yeah. I'd be really interested in asking the audience if anyone has any questions. We'd love to hear them. If you have any suggestions how we can combine the two worlds. If you have any questions about the CD, usually now there's a total silence. Everyone just looks around to see if anybody else has it. I've asked lots of questions. Otherwise, you are allowed to ask more questions. But is there anything you guys would like to know about Henrik, about his work? Oh, thank you so much. You've saved us.
Well, first of all, thank you for this whole thing. And I would be interested where you think your way is going. Where are you more concentrating on the classical thing, or trying to combine everything? But is this only or just about you, or also trying to go with Trialogue or Schwarzman, or what? What's the future?
Well, it's all happening at the same time, in a way, and somehow I have the feeling I can do crazy things at the moment. That's the feeling I have, and I think it's also important that it's happening. Yeah, so I'm trying out things. That's what I've always done, and at the moment I have the possibilities to knock on orchestra doors, and they open a tiny little bit. So I find that interesting, because my quest is in a way to see what can I do with my instrument, which is the computer. So where can I put it, and what happens if I do that? And at the moment, I believe that for me now, after 15 years of making electronic music, I find it very interesting to have acoustic instruments as a source, and then put them into the computer and twist them and see what happens. Or the other way around, create something, write notes out of it, give it to fantastic players, and then record that again and bounce back and forth. So this is something I'm very interested in at the moment, and because I believe I search for something new, and that's going to be the path always, probably. So sometimes it goes wrong, but that's okay.
Thanks. Great question. Oh, it's a photographer standing up. I thought it was someone asking a question. Damn. Anybody else? Yeah, it's always the same. Then all of a sudden, 1 minute before the very end, everyone does this. But if there aren't any more questions, then no? Sad. No, okay. No more questions. I have 1,000 questions, and we're going to have to go out to a bar to answer all my questions. But it's been absolutely fascinating meeting you, and thank you so much. And I hope the world is going to really enjoy your music. I'm going to enjoy telling people about it, and I hope that we can have some more collaborations between our two music genres, because
that would be great.
It would be really great. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I have another question. I have a question. Would you like to see Henrik live in action?
And would you like to see Sarah in action?
Because when we had a telephone date and decided to met over the phone and said, okay, what could we do? And I just suddenly thought I would really like to see what you can make from these sounds. And you've been collecting you've been collecting live music sounds. And I told Henrik a story about when I was studying at music college in London, and a famous music synthesizer maker came to us and said to the students, we'll pay you £50 if you come to our studio and play 4 octaves of a scale, and we'll record it for our synthesizer. So we students thought, great, a lot of money. So we did that, and we went back to college, and we got in such trouble from the musicians, from the professionals, from our teachers, from the members of the orchestra, said, how could you do that? This is like 20 years ago. How could you do that? You're ruining live music, and you're taking away our jobs because you're giving the synthesizers. But you said something very interesting about synthesizers. You said actually nothing's happened really since in the last years, that there's been
in the last
sort of
5 years,
lull.
I would say that there hasn't been much development in electronic synthesizer or plugin synthesizer, or let's say sounds, new sounds, because techno has always been about new technology and working with new technology. And since around 5 years, I would say, there hasn't been a new synthesis or something, nothing really new. And that's also why I go into another direction, to get another source to create new sounds.
So you're doing something, so I don't have to feel bad. I didn't take anybody's jobs away all those days ago, all those years ago. But today, if I play for you just some horn sounds, and you can create a track out of it, I couldn't feel more cool. I'm very proud. Okay, so what do we need? I have my horn. Where's your instrument?
Yes, it's over there.
Great, let's set it up. When you're sampling an instrument, what do you usually get them to do?
When I start, I usually let the player play and see what they give. Yeah, and that's always a good start, I think, because they can do so many things that I don't know anything about, and so I just record, and then I play around and throw it back at the musician, and then you see what happens, and sometimes you get. And this is what I'm actually looking for. Sometimes you get these very, very special lines by probably changing the one, changing the rhythm, pitching the sound into another place, or layering, and then by weird things that happen in here, you create a melody that is really interesting and that a human being usually never would play. And I think that's something that I find very interesting. You get those new melodies that you wouldn't get out of your head. And if you then somehow try to extract that melody, write it down, and then play it again, then you have something that might be special, and that's what I'm looking for. Because
I'm a classically trained horn player, and that means I can't improvise to save my life.
Yeah.
We're terrible at it. At least I am. So if I was just I played you a few things earlier on, and you made a little data bank of some sounds that the horn makes. So if I just played you a couple of notes to start off with, or would you rather have some sort of melody?
Some single notes are good, different ones, and then you could play a solo over it. I can record that, and then we see. Yeah.
Okay. That was one we played.
What we had before. Yeah.
Shall I show them how we made that sound?
Yeah.
Look how we made that sound. It's literally all horn. Okay, I won't talk now because otherwise you get my voice in the mix. Okay.
Yeah.
Ready to go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What would you like? A little lip trill?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
That's also you. Yeah. So. Again.
Sounds like something wrong with my horn.
You go on.
Again?
long notes.
In this key?
Yeah.
Is that me?
Yeah. Nice.
Fantastic.
Very quick.
That was, I mean, it's just to look over and see what's going on. It's magic. It really is. It's like, yeah, I don't understand any of what you're doing, but you transposed.
I don't too.
You turned around, you squashed, you extended, and you made a whole piece out of just one little horn player.
Yeah, and usually you do that for 2-3 hours, and then things come up, and then you decide what is really special and what is just random, and then you can make up a piece out of this, and this is something I find interesting. And so from the pitching, and so as a next step, I would think about, so how many horns do I need to actually play something like that? And so this is a very interesting way for me at the moment to get new sounds.
It's totally fascinating and very, very special. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you that I was allowed to play for you. Thank you all for coming. And this will be available as a podcast, so we can watch it again and again. And thank you, Henrik. It was fascinating. And we're going to continue this horn experiment, I hope.
Yes, please.
Thanks for coming. Thanks.
Thank you.